Welcome back to Voodoo Family Travels. I'm Greg.
And I'm Val.
Hope you enjoy a little taste of Ireland.
Hey, welcome back to Voodoo Family Travels. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're in the kitchen. We're going to make up some Irish treats. So when we went to Ireland, I picked up a couple little cookbooks. I have this one is the Irish Granny's Pocket Bread and Baking Book. And I also picked up the Pocket Irish Pub Cookbook. So we're going to start with some white soda bread. So I had my oven preheating to 450 degrees and I've got 450 grams of just plain white flour in this bowl. Then we're going to add a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of baking soda. So we'll add that in. We're just going to mix the dry ingredients together. And then you make a little well in the center of the bowl. And it calls for 14 ounces of buttermilk. But when I went to the store, the only buttermilk that they had was almost expired and not looking too good. So I had just added a little white vinegar to my milk to make homemade buttermilk. So we're going to add that in. And then we'll mix this until it's well combined. Alright, so I have my dough combined here. And it says to add a little bit of flour to your baking pan. So I'll dust the pan with a little flour. And then I'm going to turn the dough out onto the pan. Try to form a loaf. The dough is a little bit wet, so we'll see what we can do. Alright, and then you're supposed to slash the top of the dough with a knife, so we'll try to do that. It's kind of wet. So we're just going to put an X on the top. And then this is going to bake in your oven for 30 to 45 minutes. So we'll come back to that when it's done. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to be cooking from the Irish Pub Cookbook is some shepherd's pie. Now, shepherd's pie is traditionally made with ground lamb, but I wasn't able to find any ground lamb, so we're going to use ground beef, so it's more of a cottage pie. So in this pan I have a couple tablespoons of olive oil. It calls for rapeseed oil, but I don't have access to that either, so we're just going to go with olive oil. We're heating up the olive oil. We're going to add in 1 chopped onion. And we're going to let that cook down for about 5 minutes or so in the hot oil before we add our ground beef. So you're going to cook the onions down until they're starting to get translucent in about 5 minutes or so. And then I also have about 2 pounds of gold potatoes that are in some salted water that I'm going to bring to a boil, and that's going to go on top of the shepherd's pie, cottage pie, to like mashed potatoes on top. So we're just going to keep cooking this onion, and then we'll add in the ground beef. Alright, so our onions have been cooking down for a little bit. I'm going to add the ground beef now. It's a pound of ground beef. I have a little bit more than a pound, but that'll be just fine. I actually started preheating the lower oven. I have a double oven to 400 degrees to have the I have a soda bread in the top oven, and then I'm going to finish the cottage pie in the lower oven. So we're just going to brown up this ground beef. Alright, so our ground beef has been cooking for 5 minutes or so. So now I'm going to add in 2 diced carrots. And then it calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley. I don't have any fresh parsley, so I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of dried parsley. And then a teaspoon of thyme. And then salt and pepper to taste, so we're going to add about a teaspoon or so to start, and then after it cooks down we'll taste it and see if we need to add a little more. And we got some fresh pepper. Taste the seasonings after it cooks down. Oop, steaming up the camera. So you want to let this cook to 2 or 3 minutes. Let everything get blended up. The potatoes are starting to boil, so that's good. Alright, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of flour to the meat. It's a 1/2 tablespoon measurement. And we're going to let that cook for just a minute, cook out the raw flour taste. And then we're going to add in a can of beef broth. It calls for about 2 1/4 cups. This is a little less than 2 cups, so just to see how it is, and if I need to add a little more, I'll add some water. So now I'm going to let this cook down for about 20 minutes. Let this sauce thicken up. By that time, our potatoes should be done, and we'll be ready to continue with the recipe. Alright, so the filling has been simmering for about 15 minutes or so. We're going to let that keep going. I'm letting it, the sauce thicken up a little bit. It's looking good so far. And the potatoes are done, so I drained those. We're going to add 4 ounces of milk, half a cup, and then get these mashed up. They don't tell you to season the potatoes other than I cook them in salted water, so I'm going to taste them and see if they need some more salt before I put them on top of the shepherd's pie or cottage pie. So our soda bread has been in the oven for about 30 minutes, so we're going to check on that and see what it's looking like. That's looking pretty dark and sounding hollow, so we're going to say that is done. So we'll turn that oven off, and we're going to get our cottage pie into the pan. We'll just 9 by 13 pan. We'll get this into the pan. Alright, so I got that into the pan. Top it with the mashed potatoes. Kind of just spread those out on the top. Alright, so I got this into the pan. Probably could have used a little bit smaller pan or a little more potatoes, but it'll be just fine. We're going to put this into the oven for 30 minutes at 400 degrees. Alright, so I just took the shepherd's pie or cottage pie out of the oven. It wasn't quite 30 minutes, it was about 25 minutes, but it was bubbling and starting to get brown, so I didn't want to leave it in too long. But it looks good, so let's get this dished up and serve it up, carve up the bread, and see how it tastes. Alright, y'all, so here it is all plated up. So now we're going to do the taste test. I tasted the filling of the cottage pie before I finished it off, so I know the filling at least tastes good. But let's give it all a try and see how it is together. That's really good. That's really good. Now, the bread, I wasn't exactly sure about. The texture is not what I was expecting. I was kind of expecting, I guess, kind of more of a softer, like a quick bread. But it's definitely like chewy cutting into it. So we'll see how it is. I put a little bit of butter on it to see. It has really good flavor. It is a little bit chewy. I would say maybe next time I would probably like maybe a little less liquid or a little more flour. It was kind of very wet dough when I was mixing it up. But overall, it tastes pretty good. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. It's just something a little bit different. I try to fill in between our trips. We can only do vacation so much, but here's a look again at the shepherd's pie or cottage pie and the Irish soda bread that we made. See y'all next time.
Thank you again for watching Voodoo Family Travels. If you hadn't already, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our videos. I'm Greg.
And I'm Val. If you like this type of video, let us know in the comments. See you again soon.